Good morning. I'm Colleen Appel, President of the Board of Trustees. My pronouns are she and her. I, like Alice in Wonderland's White Rabbit, have sometimes believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. 2 years ago, when I was the board's financial secretary, I volunteered to be the next president of First UU because I believed that people would pledge better if they were assured that there would be a next president. I previously viewed myself as a supporter rather than a leader, but I had been trained to run a good meeting and thought I was capable of running good meetings at First UU. My tenure began with a vision of camaraderie supported by coffee and chocolate, and a vision of efficiency supported by a meticulously prepared agenda. At the time, my biggest worry was being responsible for calling off church in a snowstorm, but that worry was made irrelevant when 3 months in, I had to make the call to shut down the church entirely. The pandemic has wreaked havoc on my vision and our sense of community. Today we begin to use the October's theme of relationship to restore what has been lost. And at the end of my message, I will also talk about regathering to restore community. Back in 2018, when I served as the religious education liaison, our then president, Babs Garcia, started a conversation about congregational covenant, and I volunteered, based on my experience in writing norms of behavior with teachers, to write and deliver a piece about how UU churches undertake the task. 3 years later, yes, we're a slow-moving institution. We renew talk of covenant as well as talk of collective vision and mission. This time we have Reverend Michelle to guide us through the process, which will include a number of conversations in October. Marcus Hartleaf, in a piece called The Grout, says the tile is beautiful, but it's the lowly grout that binds us together. We are a people who bring together the broken pieces of our histories and the shining pieces of our seeking and, piece by piece, create a mosaic religion. But our mosaic making tells another story too, one that is often more difficult to see, one that is essential to the purpose of religious community. One that lies not in the beautiful and broken bits and pieces, but in the grout, unifying disparate pieces into a whole. Grout happens in board meetings and committee meetings and endless emails and slow-moving institutions. The grout of community takes years to lay and settle. Today's message will take a step towards laying the grout designed to bring us together. What are we going to hear when we hold bigger conversations? Well, we will bring forth the things being said in private and small group discussions. We will hear about a generational divide, policing, microaggressions, freedom, disrespect, welcoming, unwelcoming, censorship. We will sit in tension. We will sit with the problems we face. So let us engage in what Adrienne Mary Brown calls healing behavior, to look at something so broken and see the possibility and wholeness in it. A common vocabulary helps us learn and grow together and share emotions and ideas with each other. So let's begin with 4 definitions: beloved community, vision, mission, and covenant. First, beloved community. In 2008, the Unitarian Universalist Association's Leadership Council called Beloved Community a place where all souls are welcomed as blessings and the human family lives whole and reconciled. In 2018, our UUA president, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, added active verbs to her definition of beloved community and called it a community that practices a radically inclusive and compassionate faith within and acts powerfully in partnership and solidarity for justice and liberation beyond. Vision is a carefully defined picture of where the congregation wants to be in 5 or more years. It is the dream of what the congregation can become. A mission is a concise statement of what the congregation wants to be known for or known as within the wider world, what the congregation wants to mean to the community. Covenant is a statement of how members of the congregation will be with and will behave toward one another, as well as what is promised or vowed to one another and to the congregation as a whole. Covenant is Latin for come together and means a solemn agreement or promise from the heart regarding a course of action between parties. Lisa Ward differentiates a covenant from a creed. A covenant leaves room for chance and change. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best as I can in our becoming. A creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flow of our lives. A creed creates an us and a them. A covenant invites relationship. UU blogger Tandy Rogers recalls a workshop she was leading where they co-created a covenant for that particular event. A workshop participant asked her to define covenant and wondered, is a covenant a promise you won't ever break? Rogers responded with the following, quite the contrary. It's a promise you can count on breaking because it calls us to be our highest selves and we are merely human. I think the most important part of the covenant isn't the how-to, but the what happens when we fail and need to get back on track. Congregational covenants can take many forms. The UUA tells us creating and agreeing to a covenant can be an extremely effective tool for setting guidelines and building trust. UUA advises that the first step to implementing a congregation-wide covenant is to draw up a covenant amongst church leaders, specifically the governing board and staff. This covenant will serve as an example to the congregation. The board wrote a covenant by first naming common values. What does a good meeting look like and feel like? We wrote several statements about what we value when we work together and revised them to be the following 4 statements of covenant. 1. We will create a non-judgmental culture where we are allowed to make mistakes, offering corrections with compassion, disagreeing respectfully, and confronting lovingly. 2. We will listen with full attention, offering everyone the opportunity to speak in an effort to encourage radical inclusivity, especially listening for diverse voices and decentering normative viewpoints. 3. We will be mindful of our responsibility to the congregation by attending all meetings, coming to them fully prepared, and completing our assigned tasks. And 4, we will ask for what we need during the meeting and honor the personal needs of others. A document that considers where we might fail and offers a positive approach to avoid those failings is a thing of value. Someone hasn't done an assigned task? We have a written promise that we will complete the work assigned to us. Let's do better. All that's well and good. I include our covenant in all our board meeting agendas. But I acknowledge that this covenant falls short because we have spent little time talking about how we will behave when we fail. I offered an oops and ouch approach borrowed from another UU church. Oops for when we acknowledge our own mistakes, incorrect pronoun usage perhaps, and ouch for when we wish to point out something that called for increased awareness, like failing to center the marginalized people directly affected by an issue. Ouch felt like policing and not in keeping with item number 1, where we asked for grace to make mistakes. But in turn, if we fail to offer correction, then we fail to offer radical inclusivity, spoken of in item number 2. This failure we made in a small group covenant can now be offered to the congregation as a lesson in covenant writing, and surely that is the purpose of writing covenants first in small groups. Margaret Wheatley says, "There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask, what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams." That, then, is the purpose of vision and mission statements: to state what's possible, to notice what we care about, to share dreams. I very deliberately repeat a definition of mission every Sunday morning in the announcement portion of our service, mission being what we do and what we want to be known for, and follow the definition by a list of activities we are involved in: the cold weather shelter, break light clinic, lunch bags for the unsheltered, and more. This is what we do. Is that what we want to be known for? If so, we are on our way to defining mission. Our current front-facing statement on our webpage says, "We are a church with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve." It also states that we are the voice of liberal religion in the Ozarks. Whom do we serve? Who needs to hear us? How do we show our heartfelt love? How might we interpret these sentiments in specifics that will direct the activities of our committees and determine the numbers in our budget? I am grateful for the work of the Committee on Shared Ministry, COSM. It is their job to consider the health and future of First UU. So they are calling for the congregation to write vision and mission statements. The COSM and the Sunday Services Committee have both paused their work on a lay speaker policy and guidelines for speakers until the congregation engages in bigger conversations about mission, what we want to be known for. As another practical matter, knowing our mission, what we do, and our vision, what we want to become, makes it so much easier to create a budget. A budget created for the church who wants to be primarily known for its social justice activity looks different than the budget created for the church who wants to be known for its superior Sunday services. Reverend Michelle has asked us to write our own visions to bring to listening sessions. Here's the vision I imagined and wrote at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I see church as meeting people where they are. Church is providing space for the Break Light Clinic. Church is soulful home deliveries so that 20-plus families can do church at home. Church is taking meals to Ecclesia. Church is creating welcoming baskets for the unsheltered who are finding homes. Church is planting gardens. Church is using our location on a busy street to be a visible advocate for social and climate justice. Picture solar panels. Picture art installations. A 4 a.m. vision, which expanded on Tuesday afternoon when I joined the Connections discussion group. I heard a vision centered in spirituality and I began to think about how spirituality walks hand in hand with social justice. My vision grew by being seated in community. The act of listening is an important part of developing our vision. Reverend Michelle has worked out several ways for us to listen to each other and share ideas this month. I hope you'll join at least one listening session. Where does imagination take you regarding our mission and vision? In the coming month, we will consider these questions. What does the beloved community feel like in practice? How do we want our members, friends, and visitors to feel when they encounter our congregation? How do we live our UU values, starting with one another? And then we'll move on to the question, what do we need to promise one another in order to create that kind of community? One thing we will have to promise each other as we regather is we will work hard, certainly harder than we've ever had to work on previous Sunday mornings. Because the COVID risk remains high in Greene County, we will operate on a limited attendance, multi-platform basis, requiring 5 teams. The Zoom team that creates the content to stream into the homes of those who cannot attend in-person services at this time. The registration team. Attendance will be limited and registration will likely be required. The upstairs team. This team requires greeters, ushers, cleanup crew, and most importantly, someone to operate the large screens. For a time, many of the music pieces will be recorded, and some service leaders will choose to Zoom in from their homes. The downstairs team. If attendance is greater than 54, some people will have to be seated at the downstairs screen. Someone will be needed to operate it, and others will be needed to host. And the children's team. Children are at increased risk because they cannot be vaccinated. This team will monitor the special needs of children. At the time of this recording, we are trying to set a date to meet jointly to plan a grand regathering. You will all be invited. We need the participation of many hands, hearts, and minds. Our choice to organize around our promises to ourselves is our great strength. I close with words again from Marcus Hartleaf. Hold us, O grout. Gather us in through time and space, and make all our broken pieces whole in community. Blessed be. Amen.